What's up, kids? As you can see by the title of this video, I'm about to teach you how to write an essay because you are going to have to write one.
I love you!
I hate you!
Yeah, look, I know a lot of you are going to feel like that kid when I have to make you write an essay. But the whole point of doing this is that you get better at it, and that becomes less and less and less your attitude. All right, kids, so this is an argumentative essay that you're going to be writing, and this is primarily the type of writing that you do in history because you take a position on a historical event, place, time, whatever, and you analyze it, and you have to make some sort of conclusion about it, draw a conclusion about history, about the past. So this is called an argumentative essay. Here we go. How to write an argumentative essay. Now, there's a very specific way that we're going to do that here in this class. First things first, before we get into the details of what the essay should have in it, I want to talk about the writing process. The writing process is basically the steps that any good essay writer would take to make an essay the best it can be. Now, for the record, I could sit down and just knock out an essay. I can just sit down and just start typing it without planning, without any preparation. And you know what, it might be good. And some of you have told that to me. Like, oh, Mr. Bartley, I can write an essay. I don't need any help. This is easy. I just sit down and do it. You know, it's not about whether you're a good writer or not. It's about whether or not you can make the best writing that you can make, that you can produce. And you might be a B writer, even an A writer without doing any effort, but it can always be improved. So, first thing, plan. Always, always, always plan the structure of your essay in advance. Now, much of that planning is going to be done for you by me because you're new to writing. You're finally starting to write more and more essays, and for many of you, this might even be your first essay that you've ever had to tackle. So, pre-write. Always, always pre-write, kids. Don't ever just, start typing an essay, like I said. And pre-writing in a lot of ways is you just organizing your thoughts. And in history essays, typically, it also involves research because you have to prove to the reader that you know what you're talking about, which means you have to know dates, places, facts, figures. You have to know the context of any historical event. And then finally, you compose the actual essay. All right, so this is where you actually sit down and type your essay. Some writers or some teachers might ask you to handwrite an essay. I don't do that personally because as an essay writer who's written hundreds of essays to get through high school and college, I really never did that. I mean, there's a few times I had to handwrite an essay, but it was only when a teacher made me do it and said, you have to handwrite this first. So I just sit down and I type it, but that doesn't mean that you sit down and type it and it's your final draft. Oh, no, 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 no. Always, after you're done writing your essay, proofread and revise your essay. And this also requires help because you tend to miss your own mistakes in your writing, so it's always best to have someone else look it over, which we will do. Look, if you don't plan an essay, this is what your essay is going to end up looking like.
Something a little heavier this time.
Yep, that's what's going to happen to your essay. It's going to fall apart and be totally destroyed if you don't just plan it. The parts of any good essay, generally speaking. First, an introduction. you have to introduce the essay. You have to get the reader like basically primed for the information, so to speak. And there's some certain elements that just have to be there to introduce the topic and what you're going to be doing with it. The body, that's the main part. That's the meat of the essay. So you have the intro, and then you have the body. The body's usually, not usually, it always is by far and away the biggest part of an essay. And last but not least, the conclusion. You have to finish up your essay. So we're going to talk in detail about how each of these elements go together. The type of essay that you're going to write, I refer to as an ASTER essay. An ASTER is an acronym, A-S-T-E-R. And this refers to very specific elements of the refutation paragraph, which we'll get to, that I want to see in this type of essay. Most of you have already written one of these before for me, or a couple of these for me, so some of you it's going to be review, for others it's going to be brand new information. First, your introduction. Then you're going to have your first big idea paragraph, your second big idea paragraph, your refutation or ASTER paragraph, and your concluding paragraph. So some people cringe at the idea of these, but the reality is I'm going to have you write your standard good old-fashioned 5-paragraph essay. This is because you are a learning fledgling writer, and the better you can do these types of essays, it just teaches you the structure of an essay in general. And of course you can expand this as you get more advanced and go off to high school and college, which in order to survive there you will have to be able to do that. So these are the paragraphs that you're writing. Intro, big idea, second big idea, ASTER, and conclusion. So what goes into your introductory paragraph? Well, first, you always start off an essay with a hook. It's really challenging to write a hook. Hooks are some of the more difficult things to write, but they're essential. What it does is it draws the reader in. You hook them, just like you hook a fish, and then you have to reel that bad boy in, and land that bass. But how do you write a hook? Well, we'll work on this in class specifically, but in general, quotes are okay. Some people like them. It's a good way for an early writer to get a hook, but they're not very hooky, so to speak. You can do statistics, narrative, shock, humor, horror. Personally, narratives are really powerful that have horror, shock, and humor in them. Basically, you write a little story, and we'll work on this in class. You then have to state your position. This is like your thesis statement. So you hook the reader, and then you tell them your position here. So in an argumentative essay, you're going to have to take a side. Apples are better than oranges. Up is better than down. I don't know, whatever. Just you have to have a position. You have to take a stance, and then your whole essay is going to argue to that point. You mentioned your 2 big reasons. So in this type of essay, you're going to have 2 big reasons that you're going to argue X, Y, or Z. So for instance, one essay topic, are the Sons of Liberty subversives? Are they bad, or were they good? Were they heroes? And you're going to have to think of 2 big reasons that you agree with one position or the other position. Okay, so the big idea paragraphs. These are like your main content that you're going to show, first of all, to the reader that you know what you're talking about. And second, you're going to pour through the information as to why you believe the position that you took. So just as a general thing, the big idea paragraphs are generally pretty easy to write because it's just the information. But one thing that you don't want to do is say first of all or first off. Avoid that. You want to just jump into the facts. Write your first reason with lots of detail, lots of explanation. I think that goes without saying, but once again, this is where you prove to the reader that you know what you're talking about. And the second big idea paragraph, okay, so this bullet is, when you do your next paragraph, don't say, and the second reason is, or second, try using a better transition word. You have to have good transition words, and you have to have a transition, but there's good ones and bad ones. Some are better than others. So try using a word like additionally or furthermore or yet again. These are all options that you should take. Now the ASTER paragraph. The ASTER paragraph is the paragraph that I spell out in the most detail. First, the first sentence is you admit that some other side thinks or believes differently than you. Every good essay has to be balanced. You have to acknowledge that all people don't agree on a certain aspect of history and that you're going to basically acknowledge that here. Usually this sentence starts with, admittedly, there are some people who believe. Now, I put that out there as a great way for you guys to start a sentence. And I'm going to say this. If you don't have any better ideas, just steal that one. State. This is where you state what the other side believes. So you admit that some people believe differently than you, and then you tell me why they think differently than you. Then, this is the magic. You turn that argument around. Basically, this is a sentence that says, however, these people are wrong. Okay, so you admit there's another side, but of course you have to turn it. You have to turn it because you're trying to make your argument land with the reader. And then you explain why they're wrong. So, they admit that there's another side, you state their reason, you turn it around, and then you explain, you tear it apart, you shred it, you prove them wrong. Make them just be like, oh yeah, you're right, never mind. And then finally, to finish out this paragraph, you restate the sentence. You usually say like, therefore, and then explain why your original position is correct. This is a very prescribed paragraph. Please follow the template very closely. The better you get at this, the more nuance you can throw into it. But if you're not very good at this yet, just follow the template blindly until you get really good at this. Last paragraph is conclusion and closing. Don't simply restate the introduction, but you are going to restate and sum up quickly and succinctly your main arguments, okay? So it's kind of like a rewrite, in a way, of the introductory paragraph here at this point. You want to finish your essay strong with a strong closing, and the best closing when it comes to an argumentative essay is the now what question. Okay, so given that you made this argument that your position is correct, someone else's position is wrong, well, then make a call to action. Say, therefore, we need to X, Y, or Z. It could be something that we need to, if I was arguing that climate change was real, for instance, and that we need to do something. So my call to action could be, we as a society need to clean up our act and make efforts to be more carbon neutral. But with history, you're usually not going to have that kind of a call to action. But you should call the people to change their perspective on history. Explain to them why you're so right that history books must be rewritten to reflect your position here. So those are the elements of an Astor essay. I know this is a pretty quick video, but listen, if you don't do all these parts, what you're going to end up with is this.
What were Jesus' parents' names?
Mary and Joseph.
Very good. And approximately how many years ago did he live?
Oh gosh. 250 million years ago.
250 million years ago. Wow.